Hello dear learner. Today in this video we will discuss about how to check vendor or customers mark transaction. It means when you are going to pay to the vendor or make any collection from the customer and you create a vendor payment journal and you go to the settle transaction. So when you mark for the transaction and go to the settle on the transaction, you always most of the time you get an error that this transaction is already marked for the settlement. So you are not able to make that settlement at that point of time. So if you want to check that who are all the transactions, which are all the transactions that have been already marked for transaction but not yet settled. So let's go to the dynamics. Here in invoice journal, I have just created an invoice journal for the scenario where for this particular vendor, I have posted a transaction of 2000 with TDS of 200. So this is the transaction, and the same time in the vendor payment journal, I have created this one payment journal, and after clicking on the settle transactions, I have selected this transaction in this journal, the last one. Okay. So this has been already selected. So I don't know this transaction has been selected for payment or not. So some user come and click here new and go to that vendor, click on the bit, and user click on the settle transaction, and what he finds that there is a person boolean here. It means this transaction is already marked for transaction. Right now I cannot make this transaction. It will throw me error after selecting this. It will throw me an error. This transaction has been already marked by the vendor payment journal like this. So how to check that what are the all the transactions that has been marked for payment or marked for any settlement. So here in accounts payable under periodic task, we have vendor marked transaction details and all marked transaction details. Here we can check the vendor wise marked transaction details, or here we can check all the marked transactions. In account receivable, same as under the periodic task, we have the same functionality, customer marked transaction details and all marked transaction details. So right now I am going to accounts payable, vendor marked transactions. Here I'll select that particular vendor, this one, and select that company and click OK. So it will show me all the marked transaction that has been marked for that particular vendor. So I can see that this transaction has been marked for transaction for which I was not able to make settlement. So to unmark this transaction, I'll click on this unmark settle transaction, or else I can directly go to the voucher that has been created for this transaction. So let me unmark this selected transaction. So the transaction has been unmarked. Now I will go to the vendor payment journal, and that journal for which I was going to select the transaction, I'll go here, select the vendor and click on settle transaction. Now this boolean, the person boolean will vanish from here. Now I can use this invoice for my settlement. Now this amount is automatically picked. Now I'll click the vendor and respective bank account and make this payment. So by this way we can unmark the selected transaction, or we can see the what are the transactions that have been already marked for settlement or marked for other settlement. This is also applicable for the sales order invoices or purchase order invoices. where we go to the make the prepayment of that customer, and we have already marked the prepayment transaction on that particular purchase order. So whenever we go to the make any payment or settlement, we cannot make that. So by this way we can select, we can check what are the transactions that has been marked for transaction. We can unselect that, unselect that marked transaction, and then we can proceed with the transactions. So I hope you guys have understand. Thank you so much for watching this.